Hello, everybody. Better Spaces is a health and happiness solution for today's hybrid workplace. Today's session is stretching for pickleball and tennis. You got to get ready to hit the court with confidence by learning effective warm-up strategies tailored for pickleball. In this session, we'll discuss the importance of warming up before pickleball, explore specific exercises to prepare your body for optimal performance, and you'll learn dynamic stretches, mobility drills, and sport-specific movements to loosen up muscles, increase blood flow, prevent injuries, and so that you can play your best during your next pickleball match. Alrighty, everybody. My name is Dr. Paul Cachoa, and I partnered with Better Spaces here to bring you this easy and educational workday session. All right, a little bit about me. I'm a physical therapist and owner of Par 5 Physical Therapy here in Randolph, New Jersey. I got my doctorate in physical therapy in 2010. I'm a certified CrossFit coach, certified golf medical professional, certified dry needling specialist, and a certified orthopedic clinical specialist. And I've been in the physical therapy field for over 25 years now, and I love helping active adults get back to doing the things that they love to do without taking any pain meds, while avoiding surgery, and let's see here, avoiding pain meds, avoiding surgery, even if you've had physical therapy before. So let's get into it here. Pre-game prep, effective warm-up strategies for pickleball. All right, I'm going to pull up my slide. Now, because I am a medical professional, I have to put up the slide that the stuff that we're going to be talking about today in the class is aimed at a broad population. So if you're dealing with something specific, please get a thorough physical exam so that you can address all the root causes that are connected to your specific problem. All right? Now, if you've ever been to my classes before and you remember one thing, you've probably seen this video. Super important because it elaborates simply how we treat and how we find out what's wrong. Because the body functions on this alternating pattern of stability and mobility. If this pattern is disrupted, then pain or injury is usually the result. So if you're dealing with something specific, let's just say you have low back pain or knee pain, we're always looking at the joints or segments above and below and make sure that they're doing their job, okay? For example, knee pain, this is pretty common for pickleball athletes as they're lunging and running and trying to get those dinks. The knee is a very simple joint. All it does is bend and straighten. It's classified as a stable segment. That's all it does, bend and straighten. It doesn't like to be unstable or mobile. The joints above that, the hip and below, ankle, they need to be mobile. And I've seen it time and time again that people come in and they say they have knee pain. And then we check out the rest of their body, the other segments, and something's going on with the hip. They have a tight hip or a tight ankle, limited range of motion or flexibility of the ankle. If your ankle is not as mobile as it should be, it's reversed its role, it's changed into a stable segment. And then your body's like, all right, how do I make up for that pattern that I've lost? Then the knee becomes an unstable segment or mobile segment to make up for what's going on. All righty? So stuff that we're going to go over today are a couple things. We're going to talk about shoulder stretching, knee stretches, ankle stretches. You know, these are the joints that typically get hurt or you have aches and pains as you play. The one thing that I want you to remember, though, is that prior to an athletic event, prior to your pickleball match, you want to do a specific type of stretching. Now, the umbrella or overarching two different types of stretches are static stretches and dynamic stretches. Dynamic stretches are not held for any length of time. The positions are movement in and out of positions that might cause a stretch, right? So for example, bending and straightening, I'm just going in and out of that position. And that's probably about 30 seconds to a minute of just that movement. That's a dynamic stretch. It warms up the joints, improves blood flow through the area, and then preps you for your sport. We don't want to do static stretching prior to our sport, because what happens is that with the static stretch, if I just hold this out and I stretch my fingers back. I feel that pull through my forearm, elbow, maybe into the shoulder, and I hold that for 30 seconds. At the very minimum prescribed time is 30 seconds for any static stretching. Static stretching before an activity is not good because studies have shown that static stretching reduces the ability for that muscle that you're stretching to create force immediately after the stretches or for a time after the stretches. So you don't want to go into your game weak or inhibit the muscles that you need to use prior to your game. You want to activate them. So static stretching, don't do those before. You want to do them after your round, all right? Next, we want to activate some of the things that we want to warm up. We want to activate our glutes. We mentioned how that alternating pattern of stability and mobility plays a role in how knees function. The hip muscle, the glute muscle, is super important for preventing knee pain and also back pain. And I would say 80%, if not 90% of the clients that I see that have back issues or knee issues have some type of glute problem, inhibited glutes, weak glutes, or tight hip flexors. Something's going on in the hip that causes the stress to be transferred to your lower back. All right. And another thing for the pregame warm-up is we want to elevate your heart rate, activating your aerobic system, your cardiovascular system, so that blood flows through our body and our muscles are warmed up and ready to move quickly. And then also we want to improve coordination. You know, it's very much a eye-hand coordination type sport, especially when we're at the kitchen, not in volley zone, and we're trying to dink or block those drives or prevent those speed ups or resetting those speed ups. So if we're in a hand battle, you definitely have to have good coordination, and increasing your heart rate, your cardiovascular rate, your breathing rate, all of that is going to wind up your central nervous system and prepare you for the game. Now, I can't tell you how many times I go out to open plays or even tournaments, maybe less so tournaments, because people are very focused on those matches. But they go to, well, I see people time and time again, they go to open plays, and what they do is just grab their racket, grab their paddle out of their bag, and then they go, let me grab my paddle right here. And this is what people do. They, hey, there's my paddle, let's go. Right at the kitchen line, and they just dink, 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 and they're just dinking back and forth. And that's their warm-up. They feel like that's their warm-up. But really, it's a very static, slow type of process. We want to ramp things up a lot faster when we're trying to prepare for our sport, pickleball. And so we've got to do a couple things, all right? Also, horrible as it may sound, I've seen a couple Achilles tendon ruptures on the court. Not great. You know when it happens, it's very loud. And I've seen it happen, and it's not awesome. So you want to be able to prevent injury and tears or any ruptures in muscles and tendons, and we do that with our warm-up. All righty? So let's get into it. Enough of me talking. Let me pull up my two-shot here. And I've got this camera, I've got that camera, and we're going to talk about a couple things. All right? So let me pull up my list here, make sure that I'm on track. I've got this whole sequence of events here that we're going to go through. So the first thing, as you're getting ready to go to your game or your match or your open play, don't grab your paddle, all right? Just leave it in the bag and then find an open space, all right? Or you can go onto the court, doesn't matter. You're going to impress all your partners and all your opponents with the way that you're going to warm up here. So the first thing is we want to get your hips, your knees, and your ankles moving dynamically, dynamic stretching. So what we're going to do is just put your hands out in front. So this kind of helps with our balance. And we're going to do a squat. The squat introduces a larger range of motion into the hip and the knees and the ankles before we go play. All right. So dynamic stretching, warming up, ankles, knees, hips. You go as low as possible. The key with this is the knees have to point as they bend. They need to move in the same direction as your feet are pointing. And the feet have to stay flat. I'll show you from the front view. I'm about shoulder width apart with my feet, turned out about maybe 10 to 15 degrees. My knees are going to go that way. I do not want my knees to go in this way. So if you're looking in the mirror and you're doing this, you're perseverating that whole unstable knee. The knee does not like to bend in that direction. When we're lunging and trying to get to a ball, if the knee goes that way, no good. We get more wear and tear in the joint. It's not a good scene. So here, as we're doing it very controlled, very slow, through a large range of motion or as large as you can tolerate, feet flat, hands out in front. We want to get as much bending and educate our body and our joints to move in the right way. Knees go where the feet go. If your feet turn out like that because you have tight ankles, then hey, if you're going down and your feet kind of spin out, the knees have to go in that same direction, okay? And then we can start to do single-legged bending, and that looks like a lunge, right? So you can do a couple different versions. You could do a walking lunge, where I just take a big step and I want to go down, again, in a range of motion that makes sense for you, okay? So if I lunge and I don't have that much strength, stability, or range of motion or balance, I can just go to here and then come back. I can go to here and then come back. Just lunging, right? If you have sufficient strength and range of motion for your lunge, you can go full range and then step through, all right? And we could also do multi-directional or lateral lunges, because as we're at the kitchen line, we don't want to lunge forward if we're trying to hit something out of the air. We want to be able to lunge sideways. So a sideways lunge is where we keep one knee straight and one knee slightly bent. Here's the side view. The mechanics of the movement are the same. I'm not staying up tall and then just doing this, right? I want to be able to hinge at the hip, because at the kitchen line, if we can be balanced here and reach forward and get those balls out of the air, we're going to create pressure on our opponents and give them less time and be more aggressive. So I want to be comfortable lunging, hip back, trunk forward, and my arms are forward. With that air squat that we did in the beginning, we could do the same thing here with our lunge, our lateral lunge, to kind of feed into that forward reaching position with the paddle as we send the hip back, okay? So we can do alternating side to side, and these movements you want to go for about 30 seconds or so, up to a minute, depending upon how much you feel you need, all right? So the other one is working on ankle stuff. So I like to kind of work on just kind of like a pogo hop, kind of like hopping like this, right? Or you can go you can go like a little bit of a jog. Forward, stop quick, backwards. Stop quick, forwards. Stop quick, backwards, okay? The speed and movement that you do with this is, again, within your tolerance, but we want to be comfortable going backwards quickly and moving forwards quickly, all right? Another thing that I like to do is, there's usually a post or a wall somewhere, all right? Let's just grab this PVC pipe here, okay? And this will represent a fence post or the pole of the net, some vertical position, vertical sturdy surface. I'm going to take my foot and put the ball of my foot as high as I can on that sturdy surface, that vertical surface, and then push my knee forward, okay? So what I'm doing here is flexing my ankle up, right, as high as I can, locking the heel into the ground, and then pushing that knee forward, mobilizing my ankle. So this is a dynamic stretch and joint mobilization to the ankle, because this move right here, flexing at the ankle and also making sure that my knee moves in the right direction, is mimicking what happens at the knee, ankle, and foot when we lunge or step, okay? So I would do it on both sides, just pushing the knee forward as far as I can, going in and out of that position, 30 seconds or so. So that's our ankle, lunging. I also like to work on some rotation, trunk rotation. So if I take this wide stance, I can go with this lateral lunge and then reach down to the other foot, opposite foot, and that introduces our lateral or rotation with our lateral motion, which kind of preps our body for what we get. If I'm doing a backhand, I'm going to turn my body, step in, rotate, show you my back, and then be able to drive. Or if I'm dinking cross court, I'm going to cross my body and then rotate and dink cross court with the backhand. If I'm doing a forehand, I got to be able to rotate through there with my torso. If we don't have good mobility through the torso and the hips, what happens is that we start to do a lot of wristy motions where dinks tend to be like this, or like this, or like this, where we're going very elbow movement, elbow heavy movement, or wrist heavy movement. If I start to dink using my wrist or using my elbow and not my shoulder, keeping everything stable with the wrist and the elbow, dink, backhand, forehand, topspin, I'm using my shoulder and my torso more. That way we avoid wrist, elbow, tennis elbow issues, all right? When we start to overuse this move here or overuse this move versus coming through those dinks and those shots with our shoulder and our torso. So I like to do rotation, reaching, lateral lunge, reaching, lateral lunge, reaching. So all of those things will help you get ready. Bonus points if you do bring a band with you, some type of resistance band. You can kind of pack this in your bag and warm up your rotator cuff, right? We think about those overheads. Anything over this height right here, we're salivating. Those are the best spots. Give me that lollipop and then smash it down. But what happens over time is we try and go really hard with that, and then we might have some shoulder issues or shoulder aches and pains because we've strained those tendons that hold that ball in the middle of the socket. So an easy rotator cuff little warm up is I just hold this, or I attach this to a pole, right, or the edge of the fence, and I just kind of rotate out. The key point with this is as I'm rotating my arm, I'm not changing the angle of my elbow. All right, here's the side view. 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees. I do not do this. I see this all the time. People think they got to go really wide with this, and then because of the limited range of motion at the shoulder, they straighten out their elbow. So they, oh, this is great. And then they wind up with elbow issues. Again, very specific with the movement. 90 degrees, 90 degrees. It doesn't have to be large. Right? We want, again, a dynamic type of movement. We can do this for about 30 seconds to a minute. You'll feel that right back here in the shoulder. And then we can also do an overhead up like this. So we're doing like a Y, getting the back of the shoulder and the rotator cuff, shoulder, right? I'm not bending the elbow, back of the shoulder, all warmed up because those muscles are much smaller and they slow down the arm, right? We just worked in this direction. Those muscles in the back pull that in. And when you're going for those overheads or forehands or whatever, and you want to try and hit fast, we have a lot of bigger muscles that pull your arm forward, large and powerful ones. The ones that decelerate the arm are smaller, and they need to be as strong, just as strong. Or else, if you have a car, say like a nice new Corvette without brakes, you have a powerful engine, no brakes, what is that? It's useless. It's just an accident waiting to happen. So if you're weak in the back part of your shoulder, all those rotator cuff muscles, and you can't slow down, decelerate any whippy motion, then we have some shoulder issues. So that's important too. Bonus points if you can do warm up the shoulders. If you don't have a band, simply you can do shoulder circles. Start with small ones. I like palms up. All right, not palms down, and then do these rotations. We can do forward, but more importantly, going backwards, again, activating the rotator cuff, which pulls your shoulder backwards, not forwards. Palms up increases the space in the shoulder joint. So we don't want to create any impingement or pinchiness between the ball and socket of those tendons. So we do palm ups, circles. I like backwards more than forwards, but you can do both ways. And then gradually, as your shoulder gets warmer, you can go bigger motions, trying to focus on back, this position right here. This is not back. and if I'm just swinging through here, all right, we want to be able to express full range of motion. And that's key in building our body's own durability and resilience and avoiding injury as we age. All righty, so let's pull up to this first shot here. And that is how you activate your body and prep, doing a dynamic pregame warm-up, pregame prep, how to stretch out and mobilize yourself for your pickleball match. All righty, so any questions, let me know. I'm going to give it a 20-second countdown if we have anybody in the class that has questions. All righty, awesome. Well, thank you for joining me today. You can look for this session and many more on demand on any of the Better Spaces apps. I will be back Tuesday, June 18th for a class called Functional Fitness, Exercises for Real Life Movement. Please, you join me for an exploration of functional fitness and its relevance to everyday life. We'll discuss how functional exercise mimics movements performed in daily activities, improving strength, balance, and coordination. You'll learn functional exercises targeting various muscle groups, along with tips on incorporating that functional training into your workout or your daily routine to enhance your overall functional capacity and quality of life. So any questions, feel free to email me here at paul@par5pt.com or team@betterspaces.com. Thank you for coming and be well.